And before we dive in and start talking about our first story, there's a couple of things I want to ask you to do. If you want to go ahead and support us, the easiest way to support us is to share this stream. If you're on Twitter or Periscope, you can retweet it out. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can literally share this, whether you share that to a group or share this to your personal wallet. You can also start a watch party. If you are on Twitch or if you're on YouTube, you can be like, hey, come check this out. This is actually pretty cool. I'm learning stuff. It's cool. So, and the other thing that you can do is you can go ahead and spam those hearts. If you are on Twitter, Periscope, or Facebook, by spamming those hearts, yeah, fine. You mess around with the Facebook algorithm and the Twitter and the Periscope algorithm. But it also lets our mods and admins know that you really appreciate all the hard work that they do, as well as Renee, our field producer, Rashi, our editor, and Boomer, our researcher, because everybody here works really hard. And just about every here is only paid in hearts. I wanted to get that little plug in before we kind of start talking about a heavy topic, Jennifer. Mm-hmm. So we covered this on Monday, and what's happened is a lot more information has come out, and there's a fair amount of confusion that is still lingering around this and what's coming out. But the one thing that we have concluded is I'm pretty sure literally nobody is happy about what happened on Sunday, from all the way over to the far left activists, all the way over to the chuds. I don't think there's a single person that right now is happy with what happened in Olympia.
No, absolutely not. It's been a bad situation all around, and I think people are really looking for some answers as to the reality of what's going on or what actually happened.
Yeah, and if our mods and admins, we had provided you a link to a story that we had written that kind of really went in depth, that we researched that out. You can go to malcontentnews.com. Mods and admins, they'll drop a link straight to that story that we can go ahead and cover into that. But let me try to unpack some of what happened of what we've learned what happened on that night. So a group of activists on Saturday bought rooms for 17 rooms to house approximately 35 unhomed individuals at the Red Lion Hotel located in downtown Olympia. On Sunday, as word got out that this was going on Sunday, some reporters came in. They came in at about noon, so about an hour past checkout time. Basically, they reported, Jennifer, that there was about a dozen people just kind of chilling in the lobby of the hotel. Everything looked calm. There was nobody at the front desk. Look, I've stayed at Red Lions before. It's not uncommon to kind of walk up to the front desk and there's no one there, right? Could be in the back room, but everything appeared calm. Activists have said that they were working on paying for the next night and working on collecting those funds. Something between noon and 6 p.m. went totally sideways. And there are a ton of narratives on what did or didn't happen. And it doesn't seem like the truth is getting fully unpacked. What we do know is this, that the hotel staff called 911 at about 6 o'clock at night and said they had locked themselves in a basement room, that armed people had taken over the lobby. There are reports that they were using mattresses for barricades and they had blacked out windows. Now, what we've heard from eyewitnesses, including reporters who were there, nobody reported blacked out windows, for starters. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah. And there are accusations flying back and forth that the hotel staff was either grossly exaggerating the situation in the lobby or completely making it up. Take your pick. This ended up with the SWAT team showing up, them closing off Capitol Avenue, and doing a room-by-room sweep of the hotel. 7 people were told were arrested that evening, and the unhomed people were thrown out after thinking that they were going to be housed in there. Activists were saying what they were trying to demand was there was FEMA money that has been made available by the Biden administration, but the money's just been made available. And they wanted to force the hand of the Biden administration to continue to pay for those hotel rooms, with activists saying that despite the fact that Olympia is providing trash dumpsters, porta potties, sanitary stations, between the cold, the rain, the mud, and rats in the unhomed encampment that is actually pretty close to this hotel, the situation there was untenable.
Yeah, yeah. And the
There's
worst
like
part
a
is there's
lot to unpack in this
obviously
story. And again, all of this is in the news story that we have on our website. Then the fallout started coming, Jennifer, because what we've learned since is local homeless advocates, including people who've been working with the unhomed for 10 years, and this is why I say, like, nobody's happy. They're outraged because what they're saying is they have been working with the city, for instance, to stop sweeps. One of the demands of the protesters was no more sweeps in Olympia. Local activists are saying there hasn't been a sweep in Olympia in 2 years. We didn't check the veracity of that. If that's not true, let us know in the comments with a link. Trust but verify. If you can prove it with a link, put it in there because we certainly want to know. But we couldn't find anything to invalidate that claim. So one of the things activists are saying is a bunch of claims and demands were being made, but it's like no one ever talked to us on what people really needed. The second thing that they brought up is there were unhomed people in there that are saying, we didn't know that this was going to be like this direct action standoff thing. We would have never gone in there in the first place. And some of the unhomed that were involved, quite frankly, feel like they were pawns. It's this bigger game. And some of them ended up arrested. There was accusations where activists who were arrested had hired attorneys defending them, while unhomed people had to rely on public defenders. Now, we don't know. We know 3 people are still in jail, but we don't know because there was an update on the story, but we don't know which of the people are still in jail. And there's some people, as I understand it, that are facing some very serious charges.
Yeah. So, I mean, this sounds like, it almost sounds like it was a well-meaning plan that went horribly awry because it lacked perhaps, I don't know, the right kind of organization. I don't know, but it's really problematic to know that there are unhomed people who were potentially pawns in some larger thing at play, because as we saw last week, there were women and young children there. So I think this is something that's extremely important. It's extremely important that we get to the bottom of this and figure out what was going on, and then figure out, how, I guess, better to help those unhomed people that were potentially arrested and are still in jail as a result of this, and to just kind of find out the whole story of what went down and who needs to, I guess, not, I think pay is the wrong kind of word, but who needs to have some kind of repercussion for what actually happened.
And I agree with that, right? Because we look at, say, like the insurrection, right? And we look at people on the political right going, being canceled, right? It's like, no, there's consequences. When you do bad things, there are consequences for bad things. Even if you think that you're doing something for altruistic reasons, if people are like, no, it wasn't altruistic. And if we unpack this on who's unhappy, the people that organize this are very unhappy because they feel that it's all being misrepresented, and that they are being portrayed and painted as bad people that did this. The people that work with the unhomed activists are upset because they're saying that the people that set this up never worked or talked with them about the plan, that people who were in that unhomed encampment not only got arrested, but in the process of getting arrested, lost all of their belongings. And they're going, where's the money and support for those people? Because what they're claiming is they're not getting supported. The unhomed are unhappy because they just feel like they were used in all of this. The community is unhappy because this is being portrayed by the police as, another act of aggressive protest. Amazing, though, in Olympia that they're not applying that same label to the January 6th bum rush of the governor's mansion. Of how many people again arrested for that, Jennifer? How many? One? Like way after the fact? And how many people are they looking for? They're looking for what more? We saw a police officer getting assaulted live on a TV on multiple channels. It's like, we're just going to go ahead and give that a pass.
But it's all right. These people have jobs.
I believe it was either the mayor or someone of the city council called the activists literally domestic terrorists for their actions, and then walked it back. It's I really, I was a little hot under the collar. I didn't really mean it.
Yeah, yeah. This whole story is like so terribly problematic in so many ways, but the people who are, suffering from this the most are the ones that were, su- supposed to be receiving help. Um, and I think that's like the bottom line here is the people that were supposed to be getting help are actually the ones receiving the most serious consequences for what occurred, not just in the context of arrest, but also the continued stereotyping of unhomed people and what that does when you have circumstances like this arise. Um, so this whole kind of like idea that yeah we can do this and then push for money, FEMA money, to continue paying for these and turn it into this kind of like political statement or act while people's lives are hanging in the balance. That's hugely problematic, and I think people need to have a better understanding of what altruism is.
Yeah, and Thurston County officials are saying, look, we applied for that money like almost as soon as it became available, but it's not like I'm paraphrasing. It's not like you go to an ATM machine and put in a card and punch in a code and money.
Yeah,
That's what Thurston County is now. I always take a grain of salt when
yeah,
we talk about government officials because we know they like to do the razzle dazzle and all of this too.
yeah,
And who controls the narrative? Well, of course they do. But
yeah.
this isn't the only area where unhomed people have been used by pawns. And I'm not directing that, by the way, at protesters, people on the
Mhm.
left, or people in direct action. Bellingham did another sweep. They
Yeah.
swept the people out from City Hall, and on Friday they swept them a second time. And so you had people in January in a pandemic with our first Arctic, like really oomph of cold is coming next week, and they lost all their belongings for the second time in a week up in Bellingham.
Yeah, I
Way to
know.
go, Bellingham. Way to go.
That's what I think is most concerning to me is that you have children and families, and just anybody really that's out on the streets right now without any possibility of shelter. And we have this huge cold snap coming again this next week. And then you have situations like this that are, portraying unhomed people again in a negative light. And you have to wonder, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, resources are short, or so they say, even though they're investing tons and tons of money in the quote unquote homeless problem with nothing to show. And so again, we're going to run into a circumstance where it's dangerously cold outside and people have nowhere to go.
And Barb at Ground Level News reported they did a abatement. That's apparently what they call it in Utah. It's a lovely word for sweep,
Yeah.
abatement.
Mhm.
They did an abatement at Camp Last Hope. They did put up notices, and we've been following the story, Malcontent News. We've been sharing a ton of Barb streams. We've been trying to amplify the voices out of Salt Lake City because they don't get a lot of coverage there. And we love the work that Barb does, and not just as a streamer, but her activism work that she's been doing with the unhomed community there. You think about being unhomed in Olympia or Seattle or Bellingham in January.
Mhm.
Try Salt Lake City on for
Yeah.
size in
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
Like, and they came in after agreeing. First, they put up notices for the sweep. Then it was announced that activists in Salt Lake City had come to an agreement that they would find places for everyone and they would do like this slow wind down of camp. I say slow in the sense they're not going to come out and sweep everybody out in an hour. And when they couldn't find places for everybody, they just went ahead and swept the place anyway.
Yeah, I know. And I think, we talk a lot about these continued sweeps and the stigma surrounding people that are unhomed, but this stigma and like, authorities are reliant upon this continued narrative that reinforces these stereotypes because it allows for the justification of things like sweeps, and the arresting of unhomed people and the thrashing of belongings and all of these things. And so we see this throughout history with various populations. And so I think like the way you start to dismantle this is by disrupting, forcibly disrupting these stereotypes and calling them out when you see them, and finding different ways to talk about this. So it becomes normalized to not reinforce those stereotypes and allow for that justification.
Yeah, Malcontent Liberty is telling us that at Bellingham, after the police did the sweeps and Unhome were trying to go and find bed, there were no beds for them up there. So they were literally just on the street after they got their stuff thrown out.
Mhm.
And there's another comment down there in California at Venice Beach. Look, if I had to be unhomed, I have to admit, like that would
Yeah.
be on my A list. And you know they do a very similar tactic apparently there that they do in Seattle, which I call it whack-a-mole. Right,
Mhm.
we're going to go ahead and clear this encampment out, but they're just going to convalesce somewhere else. And of course, we've seen that. You know, great. Cal Anderson looks great. Problem solved. He didn't solve anything.
No, no, it's not being solved. It's just being like swept under a rug or have a band-aid stuck over the top of it. So it assuages, any of these public concerns people have about their safety in the context or in relation to, these unhomed people that have all these issues because these stereotypes are continuing to be tossed around. So again, I mean, to start dismantling this, we need to be more aggressive in taking apart these stereotypes and not letting them be normalized so they're used as justification to continue this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say, and I'll close on this, Jennifer, to the activist community: do not let the failures of federal, state, county, and local officials fall at the feet of the activist community for the unhomed and for Black Lives Matter and for Antifa protesters, because
Yeah.
you're just trying to clean up their mess. Like in
Mhm.
Seattle, what we've seen, Jennifer, is many of the people that were involved, say, in protest movements 3 or 4 months ago have moved on, a lot of them, into homeless advocacy
Mhm.
and mutual aid, because that is where the greatest need is.
Mhm.
And we know, because we had this story that we reported on that was also in the Seattle Times, that the Seattle Police Department were telling unhomed people, hey, go over there, there's mutual aid. And then literally tearing down the mutual aid tents after sending the unhomed people there.
Yeah, no, and I think this is partially why, and I'm going to say it again, why Colleen Echo Hawk is such an appealing candidate for mayor for Seattle, because of all of the work and experience she has in homeless advocacy. So I think she's an interesting candidate to keep an eye on as we move closer to that.
And I agree with that. And Jennifer, I don't know if you saw this in the comments. More of our emotes are on. I'm
Yeah.
seeing some of our Twitch emotes in there. I'm seeing the M News emote. So even though I only got the email that yours was approved, it looks like more of the emotes have been approved. So if you're on Twitch, I think if you become a subscriber, you get access to some cool emotes that we had designed by Rosa. And Rosa, thank you so much. Jennifer, we're going to do a brief pause for the cause, and I think we'll go to the next section. Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you.